The first question to each of you gentlemen is this: has the lawyer Patriot done enough? And if not, what can be done? General Watts?
I'll say that is a big subject. As far as I'm concerned, the lawyer Patriot has done quite a bit, but the problem is there are too many lawyers that are too much devoted to being lawyers first and patriots second. Unfortunately, from my experience with my esteemed legal brethren, far too many of them are belligerently complacent when it comes time to stand up and be counted. We have in our jurisprudence the most fabulous document in the history of the world. A very simple, understandable, short, dynamic document, the Constitution of the United States. And it is amazing as well as appalling to see lawyers across the length and breadth of our country, learned lawyers, most of them, that are not the least concerned when the language of this near sacred document is perverted and twisted and slanted by courts that inject into it political concepts rather than basic principles of liberty and justice. Does that answer your question, John?
Yes, General.
Okay.
Very frank. Mr. Schlafly, would you tell us whether the lawyer Patriot has done enough, and if not, what more can be done?
He certainly has not done enough. This on? I better get up there. I think I better get up. I don't think we have done enough, and there is a tremendous amount more to be done. The decisions of the Supreme Court, with the exception perhaps of the one on pornography this spring, are not improving. And therefore there is much more work for the lawyer patriots to do. One thing, of course, that where our elected representatives have been at fault is in the questioning of the candidates for the Supreme Court. The questioning has been cursory and has failed to bring out the character biases and prejudices which these Supreme Court justices carry on to the bench. And it is a job for the United States senators to interrogate the justices when they are up for nomination and bring out the fact whether or not they are qualified. It's been a practice, of course, to reward political favors with appointments to the Supreme Court. I was present in Chicago in 1952 when Earl Warren delivered the California block to General Eisenhower, which gave him the majority he needed to beat Senator Taft for the Republican nomination, which everybody knew would be victory. And the appointment of Earl Warren to the Supreme Court was simply a political death. The man had never served in the Supreme Court in his life, and he was rewarded. The deal made was that he would deliver the California votes for the issues which knocked out the Taft delegates from the South in Georgia and Texas and several other states, and that he would get the next vacancy on the Supreme Court, which everybody assumed would be an associate justice. Unfortunately, the next vacancy happened to be the Chief Justice, and Earl Warren insisted on the bargain being kept and being given the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, although he had never served in any court in his life, to my knowledge, and he was at least vulnerable to a charge that he had participated in one of the greatest violations of civil liberties in the history of the United States. I refer, of course, to the roundup, arrest, imprisonment for some 4 years of American citizens of Japanese ancestry without any charge, without any trial, without any hearing at all, and kept in these concentration camps for the duration of the war. Earl Warren was Attorney General and then Governor and carried out that plan, and I doubt if there's been any other act in the history of the United States which involved more infringement of more civil liberties than that particular action. Thank you.
Professor Rice, has the lawyer Patriot done enough? And if not, what more can be done?
Well, I think the answer to that is fairly obvious. The answer is no. I don't want to belabor the issue for more than about 1 hour and 20 minutes. I understand everything has been compressed and has been very shortened, and you've been shortchanged on some of the speeches during this program. They've really not given you everything you're supposed to get. So you want a long discourse. Now, actually, all I want to say on that is I would suggest that one reason for this is the ingrained attitude of respect that you have for the courts when you undergo training in the law. I have it. I think it's a good thing, but it can be overdone, and it's been overdone. And it's time, I would suggest, for us to criticize a lot more strenuously. For example, the American Bar Association last year came out, and one thing they said was that they are in favor of abortion on request. In the same meeting, they said we are not in favor of divorce on request because it would hurt the family. Right? It also would possibly result in a diminution of legal fees. You get other things. For example, take the Supreme Court abortion decision, which I think it presents the greatest single issue in the Constitution that this nation has ever faced. And you find that the criticism of it is rather subdued. William Zero Douglas, Justice of the Supreme Court, in a case last year, the Sierra Club case, said that, you got to hear this to believe it, he said inanimate objects, that's the term he used, such as trees and rivers and lakes have rights. He said it. I'm not kidding you. And you know the way he went on January 22nd, 1973, why, of course, the child in the womb doesn't have any rights. Lakes, trees, rivers, rocks, they have rights. And I would suggest that it's time to call this posturing, this fakery, what it is. I have a remedy for the Supreme Court abortion decisions, and nobody has picked me up on it. It's to deport 7 of them in a leaky boat. But John Dean was going to take care of it for me, but then he got busy on something else. He said something about the plumbers will fix it up for you. All right, I think I've said enough. The answer obviously is no, and I would like to recur in later remarks perhaps to the single issue which offers the greatest opportunity really for reversing this thing, and that is the issue revolving around the most basic right of all, which is the right to live. Thank you.